Oh my god. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Yay, we're back. Okay. Thank God. Yeah, it doesn't quite reach all the way through the apartment, and usually it's fine up in the loft. But for some reason not today. So go figures. Hey, we're back. Yay. Okay. Alrighty. Yep. So, shoot, where was I? Alrighty. So, stuff, things, excitement. I'm gonna quick DM the link to the other guy. Hang on. Okay, close enough. Alrighty. I sent it. I hope he gets it. Here we go. Yeah. So uh Sadie is going into the school year is thinking that she's thinking that there's it's the town is only, I mean, it's bigger than her hometown, but it's not super duper big. So she doesn't think that there would be a whole lot of a difference between her old town and her new town. And she is very wrong. Uh, she is so wrong. Sadie is she has just moved into the dorm when season 1 starts, and is she's thinking that like she's letting her friends back in the Midwest know that she goes to school in New England now, and a sort of a bit of a background on what she knows so far about Arkham, and it isn't a whole lot, and most of it is wrong, and she happens to glance out the window, and she sees a bunch of cultists doing some kind of ritual outside in a nearby field. And Sadie, being Sadie, thinks that they're theater kids rehearsing for a play, even though it's January and it's like negative 20 degrees outside, and nobody in their right mind would ever be outside rehearsing for a play in January in New England. But it's got to be theater kids, right? Like, what else could it be? And the dorm has to get evacuated because there are cultists outside and they're trying to summon something. And she doesn't really take it well. That kind of sets up the tone for really the rest of the season. She thinks she knows what's going on, and she doesn't. She just doesn't. But yeah. So at that time, I had just watched Reanimator, and I really, really liked it. And so I thought, when I was doing all the everything, I thought there might be a Herbert West storyline that I was going to do. That didn't end up panning out, but I set it up anyway. I in the second video that I did was kind of like the aftermath of that. It was a uh, essentially Sadie and everybody in the dorm, but also in like that whole side of campus, and the surrounding town, the campus, and then like the town also around it. Have to go down into this bunker essentially, while the qualified people go and take out the threat. And this was shamelessly ripped from a good friend. Hey, we got 3 people again. Yes, everybody's back. Woo. Uh, we the bunker underneath Arkham was shamelessly stolen from a good friend of mine's story set in modern day Arkham. It's called Arkham County, and it's basically trying to explore, like, all right, well, we know through Lovecraft's work, we know what Arkham was like in the 1920s and the 30s, but what is it like now? And I only know her through her handle on Tumblr, which is she waltzes with Shoggoths. But Shoggy does a real great job with that, and I highly recommend it. And I am most likely going to be. I don't want to like hold everything up by going and looking up the link now, but I'm going to be posting that on Twitter and everything later. If you guys want to check it out, which I definitely would really recommend. In her story, there is another town that kind of sprung up by Arkham and Dunwich and Kingsport and Innsmouth and all of them. It's called Pine Top. They came in the 1960s, and they're trying to class up the joint. They really don't like that the reputation that the area has with being all weird and there's monsters here and it's all creepy and stuff. They're like, no, we're going to be like a 1960s suburb. And it's all good. My internet went bloop, and I had to restart everything. Yeah. Usually my Wi-Fi reaches around like the entire apartment, but for some reason it doesn't today, so I'm back in my room. But yeah, so you didn't miss a whole lot. Basically, Sadie is going into the school year or the semester thinking that since Arkham is only a little bit bigger than her hometown, that it isn't going to be a whole lot different, and she is so very wrong. And she discovers how wrong she is very quickly. And it kind of goes downhill from there. But after the everything, and they go down in the bunker, and everything sort of blows over, Sadie is pretty shook up over it, and she isn't entirely sure what to think. And so she goes off on for the weekend to a nearby resort town, which is also lovingly ripped from Arkham County. Shaggy has basically said that in these first couple of episodes were really heavily influenced by Arkham County. Shaggy had said that in the time between the 1920s and today, Dunwich had really double down on their weird reputation, and so they have like a bunch of tourist traps and things like that, and it's all very like it's the sort of tone is like, oh yeah, well, there was this thing, and yeah, it's totally real. Yeah, it definitely happened. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And they say it so much that people don't believe them enough to stay away. So they're a pretty successful resort town in the modern day. And so Sadie, not knowing any better, goes and spends the weekend at Dunwich, and she manages to actually have a pretty good time. She gets warned that to stay off the hills at night, but who wants to go hiking at night anyway? Like, what's that all about? So she gets out of Dunwich pretty much unscathed, and she gets back to Arkham, and at this point the school year had really started, so there was I was in college at the time, so I was pretty busy with homework and assignments and tests and all that sort of thing. So the next really big sort of thing that happened was when Sadie breaks her computer. It falls off of her loft bed and it shatters, and she is really, really kind of freaking out about this because it's her computer. She needs it to do her homework and her everything. And this is like really sort of a serious thing. And so, luckily or unluckily, as it turns out, one of the girls who lives a couple of doors down in the dorm, knows a guy who is willing to fix it, either for free or for cheap. I can't remember what I said now, but it's azimuth weight. And the best part is that she just wants she only wants a favor in return. So like, what's that going to be like? Buy her coffee every day for a month, or something like that, right? It's going to be fine. It's totally fine. I should definitely trust her. And the favor ends up being to switch bodies with her to go and do rituals up in Chesuncook. So Sadie essentially becomes the Dan in this thing on the doorstep storyline. And there were a couple of really good interactions that I had done on Tumblr with a couple other friends who were they were kind enough to play along with me, and they were like, "Hey, Sadie, are you okay? What's going on?" And I could pretend to be all creepy and be like, "Yeah, no, it's totally fine. Just like shut up and don't question it." And that I'm doing a fairly bad job of describing it. So what I'm going to do is, in the descriptions of the videos for season 1 that I'm putting up, I'm going to link into put in the descriptions links of the relevant Tumblr posts, so it's a little easier to wade through for you guys. I've gotten part way through with them, but I'm not all the way ready to go. So like, that's coming, just so you know. But yeah, so school picked up again, so I was also trying to juggle doing all of that, and then also try to set up this azimuth thing. And I think I just heard one of my roommates come in, so if you hear people walking around, that's them. But yeah, so I was sort of treating it like a slow burn sort of a thing, where I was generally setting up azimuth, and also at that point I had read The Dreams in the Witch House and also really, really liked that, and so that I started to bring in elements from that story as well. So there are special rules about what about around, oh boy, sorry guys. There are special rules around the month of April, and there's an extra curfew, and essentially, if you see weird things, report it to your resident assistant, and like just generally hang in there. Don't go out at night. Just be really, really careful, and you'll make it through April essentially. And Sadie does her best to try to stick by those rules, but because of Asenath, it's not. That kind of throws a wrench into things. Asenath, of course, is using her to go up to Chesuncook in Maine and do these rituals. And oh yeah. Wait, no, I'm not going anywhere. Oh yeah, I do have a PO box, and I will DM you that information after the stream is over. But I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. It's just my roommates are coming in, but I'm in my room, so there may be a little bit of background noise, but that's all. Yeah. But yeah, so Walter Gilman is a character in that I introduced at this point. But it isn't exactly Walter as we know him. Another good friend of mine, Leon, he really, really likes Dreams in the Witch House, and he was wanting to explore what would have happened with Walter if he hadn't, in the end, if he hadn't rejected Keziah. And he had really sort of embraced all of that and gone through the sacrifice and everything. And so the Walter in the in my series is very much he's getting his PhD in mathematics. He's pretty successful, all things considered, and he's able to sort of recognize that, well, that something is going on with Sadie, but also to he knows enough that he can sort of tell that it is Asenath or Ephraim, that they're behind all of this, and that he can kind of figure out what they're trying to do. And Ephraim is trying to permanently switch into Sadie's body, which the reasoning behind that, I actually do plan on paying off why, because as we all know, Ephraim was real big on having a man's body and a man's brain and all of that stuff, and Sadie is not that. But I am going to be paying that off in not this next season, but the one after that, possibly. I have to see where things go with how things develop, how quickly they develop, and all of that. But there is something coming for that, and I just, yep, it's gonna be good. But yeah, so yeah, so Walter's able to recognize that it's Ephraim, and that's behind all of this. At the same time, Sadie has met a local girl called Phyllis, which is also, again, from Shoggy's Arkham County. And Philly has connections with the ghouls around Arkham, and they, around the end of the season, as shit was starting to go down, because it was just with how the school year was going and, you know, the progress of time and all that, it was getting pretty close to Walpurgis. So I figured I might as well do the big finale on Walpurgis and try to plan it all out so it worked out kind of like that. And it, for the most part, it did end up working out like that. So that was nice, you know. But so through the help of the ghouls and also Walter and Keziah, um, they're able to stop Ephraim from completing the ritual, and also as Ephraim is trying to escape Arkham with uh, Sadie in Asenath's body, um, they're trying to drive out of town, and the ghouls come up and pretty much total the car. The car, they slam into this car and it goes tumbling around and around, and they aren't seriously hurt, but it's just enough to sort of shake them up enough so that the ghouls can come in and grab Sadie and get out of there. And around that time, I happened to get into a bike accident, and you can still kind of see I had scraped up my shoulders real bad and my chin, and because of course the one time I wear like a kind of short shirt is the time that I decide that I'm going to, well, not that I decide, but that I'm going to get hurt. There was like a bit of a slash on my stomach as well. So I used those sort of pictures to illustrate what happened with Sadie, or Sadie's body, I should say, after that accident. And in the what comes after video, the places that I had bandaged and all of that were the places that I had. My roommates have a dog, so were the places that I had gotten hurt. So yay for realism. But so Ephraim, or Keziah, manages to essentially slingshot Ephraim back into his body. And there's and Sadie gets back into her body, and then the ghouls pretty much destroy Ephraim, or Asenath's body, but Ephraim. And everything is all good, right? Not really so much, because understandably, Sadie is very much not okay with everything that happened. She is really shook up, and she's pretty much the Lovecraftian protagonist at the end of a Lovecraft story, where she's taken a sanity hit. She is really shook up about this, and there are some issues. And I had shot a video that was basically her saying in more and more eloquently, it was basically her saying, I really, really do not like what has happened, and I wish it had never happened. I wish none of this had ever been a thing. And then I had to, in between the end of season 1 and the making of that video, I had to move back in with my parents, which kind of stifled any and all creative outlets. So I moved out, and then I kind of got my shit together. I got back on my feet, and when you're not stressed out all the time, you get more creative. So there was all that. So I I started making videos again, and then I started out with season 2. And Stephanie, I'm not sure whether you have seen any of season 2. Stephanie is one of my good friends on Tumblr, and the rest of you guys, I think I know from either Twitter or YouTube, so there's all of that. But yeah, so season 2 starts off with Sadie. It's like her mind has been wiped. She doesn't remember any of season 1. She thinks she's starting out fresh again. She thinks that instead of moving into the dorm, she's moved into an apartment just off campus, and she has a job. And she most of the videos that were in season 2 were shot in the car with me driving on my way to work. And even with that fresh start and not really knowing about anything that happened before, she still manages to get in trouble. She starts looking into folklore of the area, because in the Midwest, folklore is like, oh yeah, well, there's a story about this town where there's a dog that has a head that's shaped like an axe. Like, or there's a town up in Wisconsin where there's a local cryptid that's like this it's a big 8-foot tall dog man, and it's just like, it's not on the same level as Arkham, and most of them are like they're ghost stories, or they're like cryptids, but there isn't any recent sightings of them, or it's been mostly debunked. And so she thinks that the folklore in and around Arkham is going to be similar. And again, so very wrong. So for the geography of everything, I took the geography of where the placement of Arkham in New England. I took from there was a role-playing game that came out either at the start of this year or the end of last year that was based on the comic book Harold, Lovecraft, and Tesla, which is absolutely fantastic. And actually, hang on, because I think I have one of them just over in my bookcase. Give me a sec. Yes. Yep. So the role-playing game is based off of this, and this is absolutely fantastic, and I highly recommend it. It's really, really great. But so in the role-playing game, Arkham is placed about where Attleboro is. It's in Lower East Massachusetts. And so I generally took that geography and ran with it. And so when Sadie is looking up local folklore, she hears about the Haunter of the Dark and decides that, it's a local cryptid that they haven't reported a sighting in decades. So it's just like back home, right? I mean, like, there's no way any of this is real. And so she goes looking around, and she finds, she goes to Providence, and I shot a couple videos up by Brown University. where by the John Hay Library and the College Street house that Lovecraft lived in when he wrote The Haunter of the Dark. And I used that house as a stand-in for Robert Blake's house in the series, which it was a stand-in for Robert Blake's house. The view that he describes in The Haunter of the Dark is the view from Lovecraft's window when he was writing the story. So I shot a couple videos up by Brown, and I had a friend of mine do a bit of essentially text-based roleplay, where he pretended to be a local that was trying to get Sadie to stay away from all the haunter legends, and it really didn't work. And since the church in the Haunter of the Dark was a real place, but it got torn down in the early 90s, I want to say. So in the season, it was they said that it had burned down when it was struck by lightning at the end of the Haunter of the Dark. That burned it to the ground, and the people up on Federal Hill didn't really want the church around because of the reputation it had, but they weren't about to go and take it down themselves because they didn't want anything to do with it. So when it got struck by lightning and it caught fire, they just kind of let it burn and got rid of it that way. And so, of course, Sadie is looking into all these things, and she's starting to get a little more paranoid, and she's starting to piece things together that shouldn't be pieced together. And somebody is blasting music out the window. I'm sorry if you hear that. It's really hot, so I have the window open, but like, can you stop? Anywho, so Sadie is in her room, and somebody else on campus ends up accidentally, I mean, probably accidentally, but they end up summoning the Haunter, and Sadie sees the Haunter fly by as dear old Nyarlathotep is going to get the person that summoned him, and she really freaks out. And because at the end of the Haunter of the Dark, Robert Blake had that there was that bit of stream of consciousness at the end of his diary, where before the Haunter broke out of the church, he knew that there was definitely something in the church, but he wasn't entirely sure exactly what it was, and except that he knew that it was bad if it got out. And when it does get out, he knows that it was looking into the shining trapezohedron that summoned it. He knows that it's Nyarlathotep. He knows that he knows all these things that happened thousands of years ago with when Nyarlathotep was sealed away by Nefernkah, and then explorers found the trapezohedron and let him out, and all of that stuff. So to sort of mirror that, I shot a couple, about 5 or 6 videos just right in succession, where Sadie was remembering things that had happened in season 1. She starts to remember everything. She is getting really freaked out. She thinks that the sky has gone completely dark when it absolutely hasn't, but she's again taken a sanity hit. And puppy, no. I'm just gonna see if that you can still hear it. Okay, well, I tried. Sadie is, she's remembering everything. She's getting more and more freaked out, and then the haunter flies by and she sees it, and then boom, that's the end. So in season 3, I'm going to pick up pretty soon after that. A lot of the times in just in TV in general, but I know, right? It has to be like that's the only explanation, right? But in season 3, I want there to be consequences for things. In a lot of, or a good portion of the TV shows that I watch and the things that I listen to, things happen. Big things happen, but they aren't permanent. They get hand waved away, or they get very quickly reversed. Or there's like a big, oh, is it gonna happen? At the end of a season, and then the new season comes and it doesn't happen, and it's just really a letdown for me. And I mean, that may just be me, but I don't know, and so I want there to be like genuine repercussions for all of this. I'm not just gonna gloss over all the sanity loss that Sadie has. So I'm going to in between. Oh boy, how do I put this? Words. In between when I filmed season 2 and now, I have moved to a different apartment. And so to reflect that, Sadie is also going to have moved. She's going to have been put into special housing that the university has for people that have seen too much, and they just need a little bit. They need a little extra help in dealing with all of that. I swear to God. Oh well. But so Sadie is going to be living in this special university housing, where it's essentially barely off-campus apartments for students that have seen too much and that have taken a sanity hit and they need a little extra help. I am not, although I've been meaning to start reading them. There's a bookshop in downtown Providence. I live in Providence, by the way. I don't know if all you guys knew that, but there's a bookshop in downtown Providence that has the first couple of issues, or like the first couple of like anthology books. And I've been meaning to start reading them, but I haven't gotten around to it. I know the general gist though. But so part of the deal with the housing is that there are a couple of say 6 to 10 free psychiatry sessions that you can have, and then after if and after you oh boy, words again. If and when you burn through the first 10, then you can either apply for more free ones, or you can, they're like very, very highly discounted. And that is going to introduce the first of a couple of new characters that I'm going to bring in season 3. The psychiatrist is Dr. Jericho Nasser, which is a character of a friend of mine on a Lovecraft Discord, of which I am also going to be posting links after this. But he's the dean of psychiatry, and he's just really generally a great guy. He is doing essentially pro bono work to try to help these students that really need the help get back on their feet. And Sadie is absolutely going to go ahead and take advantage of those appointments. And given that Fallon, the guy who came up with Jericho, lives in Ireland, and so it probably wouldn't work out that he would end up on camera with me. I'm actually going to be doing the format of season 3 a little closer to the format of season 1, in which there are some Tumblr-based text roleplay sort of things. And I'm also going to continue making YouTube videos, but they'll be supplemented by the things on Tumblr. I'm going to be posting links for the Tumblr side of things in the description of the YouTube and vice versa, just to keep everybody on the same page. Excuse me. But so Jericho is going to be coming in and helping Sadie to get a little to recover somewhat, because on top of the everything with Asenath that she now remembers, she now is afraid of the dark because of the Haunter, and that on top of the so the consequences to the Asenath storyline was that Sadie really doesn't trust people now, because she trusted Asenath, and look where that got her. So she really doesn't trust people, but on the other hand, she doesn't like being alone more, because then she's alone with her thoughts and she gets really freaked out, and that's not good either. So she's going to have to go out and try to meet people, and so that is going to introduce the second of a couple of new characters, which this is also one of Holland's characters, Anthony Guildford. He's he's getting his PhD in alcohology and miskatonic. He's really kind of jaded about the whole occult side of things. He's very he's something. He's great, but he's something. And Sadie is just so desperate for a friend that even though Anthony is kind of standoffish and he isn't really sure whether he wants to even hang out with Sadie or do you have anything to do with her. They live kind of close by, and so there's she kind of wears him down, and they're going to end up friends. Oh boy. I don't want to spoil too much, but I also don't want to be like, I want to tell you guys something, but I don't want to tell you guys too much, and it's really hard. I know that when Uh, I'm going to attempt to have season 3 be a little longer than season 2 was, because season 2 took place over the course of like 2 weeks, and I want season 3 to last a, a bit longer than that. Ideally, the rest of the summer, but we'll see how things turn out. Um, a lot of that is because I'm kind of pretty terrible about remembering all the everything, and so I mainly improvise all of the bits. Like I give myself a general outline of, all right, well, I have to talk about this, and I had to do that, and I have to do this, and the details I just kind of make up as I go along. And so I'm gonna try to make 3 last a little longer than 2 was, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm probably going to. I want to bring in elements from other, not necessarily Lovecraft's work, but Lovecraftian fiction. So I'm going to try to do a bit with the King in Yellow and things like that. I'm going to try to mainly focus on sort of general world building and things like that. And I say things like that way too much, and I apologize. But there's quite a lot that I'm going to try to sort of start setting up. I personally, I really, really like Nyarlathotep. He's my favorite of the Lovecraft gods, mainly because, or at least in a storytelling standpoint, because he interacts with humans so much, and because he has. Oh boy, hang on a sec. I have to fend off my family. No, I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm doing a thing. Okay, there we go. Right. So I so yeah, I am gonna lean back, but I also don't want to be out of the picture, so I'm just moving my computer here. So I really like Nyarlathotep, and I want to incorporate him more into the stories, that I tell, and act. So I am going to try to work little bits of him into things, because not only did Sadie see the Haunter saw Sadie, and because of all of the everything that happened with Asenath, that's kind of made her stand out. That's from the general population. She's had, I mean, she got possessed by an evil wizard. Like, that's got to leave some sort of mark. And it sort of, again, cycles back to what I was saying about there being consequences for things. There's really going to, I really want there to be, like, God damn, I was going somewhere with that sentence and I forgot the end of it. Oh shit. Sorry guys. I'm generally very bad at public speaking, and I thought this would be better, but no. All right, but so yeah, so there's going to be more Nyla at the top, just sort of not like really out there, like, oh, thanks. It's not going to be really out there like there was at the end of season two. There aren't going to be, I don't intend there to be multiple Haunter flybys, uh, but there is going to be, I want there to be like subtly there be his influence in things, sort of building. And oh no, I want to tell you more, but I can't. I don't want to spoil it. I really don't want to spoil it. I've planned out, at least I've been brainstorming ideas for things a couple of seasons ahead, and some of these things aren't gonna pay off immediately, but they will, and really, really the main sort of thing that I want, like the main sort of takeaway that I want there to be, is that Sadie is trying to distance herself from the occult and trying her best to lead a somewhat normal life in Arkham. And of course, it's Arkham, so that's not going to happen. But damn it, she's trying. And some of that is going to be through just plain denial, like in season one where there was the cultists out the window, who are all in their robes and chanting and doing like standing in circles and being all ominous and stuff, and she thinks that it's a bunch of theater kids out rehearsing for a play. It's going to be some of that, but also just I'm going to try to world build a bit more in this season to try to stretch it out a little bit, and there's all of that. So if you guys have any questions, about the season or for Sadie, I can switch over to doing in character responses, and there's all that. So yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure whether you were here yet when I said, but there's I'm going to be putting in links to the relevant Tumblr posts in the description box of the YouTube videos, because I uploaded all the videos that I had made for season one, and then I realized that it would like you'd be able to get a sort of a general sense of what happened in the season, but not like totally understand all the way without having gone through like all of the Tumblr things. And I totally understand if you don't want to slog through 6 months worth of Tumblr posts, because to be quite honest, I wouldn't either. So, so yeah, there's going to be that. And oh yeah, yeah, nice having you. Yeah. So yeah, if if either of y'all have questions or anything like that, then yeah. I'm actually gonna quick open that window again because the dogs start. Oh yeah, shoot. Uh, fucking it's a PO box. All right, I'm just gonna put this in the chat. I'm not saying you have to send me anything, but if you were going to, then that would be where you'd send it. So, hey. Yeah, so I have actually thought about doing that, and I had tried to do something kind of similar to that with a oh shoot, did I ever upload that? I'm gonna have to look later, but there was a sort of there was an episode-ish thing that I had done with Asenath in Sadie's body where they were trying to complete the ritual, and then Keziah like slingshotted back. Oh man, that would be so cool. I'm probably gonna float the idea to Lehman actually, because that would be fun. Or they're doing like a Google Hangouts, YouTube Live sort of a thing, like with the same setup that the Lovecraft Ezine does. That would be a lot of fun. Uh, I don't know. I may have to get back to you on that because that would be great. Yeah. So yeah, I had actually tried to do a video with Fallon where I had thought for the Asenath video that was I thought that it was going to be I had initially thought of it um, as a thing that I would have done with another person, where they had where the other person was holding a camera, and Asenath was like uh, bursting into their room and being like, "Hey, go over there. Don't bother me. I have to do this thing, and I have to do it in somewhere private. So I'm bursting into your room, and I'm just like, go, stay over there. Just no, And then there's the everything with Keziah slingshotting him back into his own body, and I had done a video, or not a video call, but like an audio call through Discord, which actually worked out pretty well, all things considered. But it just didn't make a whole lot of sense given what given the tentative script that I had, and that given that Fallon was then and is still living in Ireland, the camera would have had to have been just static in one place. So it kind of fell apart at the seams. And I did end up shooting a separate video, which I was pretty happy about. And I could have sworn I put that up, but I need to double check. Oh no, I didn't, because I wanted to edit it a bit. But yeah, that's gonna be a thing. That's gonna be happening pretty soon. Or at least hopefully very soon, now that I remember I have to do it. But yeah, there's so when the school year proper starts again, I have a friend who lives in Arizona, who it's Shaggy, who her characters Philly and Sybil. Sybil is the head of the Arkham Ghoul pack. Philly was going to be introduced in season 4 at the start of the school year, when and hopefully, if everything works out right, Shaggy will be able to do one of those Skype chat things. We were planning on doing excuse me, we were planning on doing a Google Hangouts and recording that and sort of going with it. That being said, it hasn't happened yet. We haven't nailed down things like this is definitely going to happen on this date at this time, and it's really happening. So I'm not exactly sure when that's coming, but things are definitely in the works. Oh boy, I'm just going through the chat. Some of this is I genuinely like doing the Sony videos because they are so fun. Sonia was such a great lady. I really, really like it just her in general, but such of a she's such a character in her own right. The John Hay Library has correspondence between herself and a Providence Journal reporter, where she was she was she was negotiating with August Derleth about her story, The Invisible Monster, and or The Horror on Martin's Beach. And Derleth was saying that he was starting up Arkham House and he wanted to reprint all of Lovecraft's stories. And given that Lovecraft had edited Sonia's story, he wanted to get that in there, but he was really giving her a raw deal. It was not the best. And I mean, I know next to nothing about literary deals, and even I could tell, like, are you sure? Are you really gonna? That's all you're doing? Like, because I mean, even in late 1940s, early 1950s money, he was only offering her. He was offering her like $300 after like 5 years. And he'd be able to publish it as much as he wanted, wherever he wanted it, and have like essentially exclusive rights to the story. And she was standing up to him and she was saying, no, I don't want to do that. That's a really bad idea, and I'm not doing that. And he got really, really nasty with her, and he threatened that he was going to have since Lovecraft had edited the story, then it was Lovecraft's story. It wasn't actually hers, and that he was going to, like, he was essentially threatening legal action, and so she had allowed a journalist at the Providence Journal to reprint the story for a much better deal. And she was sending telegrams and writing to this guy and essentially explaining the situation and saying that if this guy, August Derleth, contacts you, do not give him my story. And just the amount of snark and sass that comes through is just beautiful. Just the righteous indignation of, I wrote this story and how dare you tell me that it is not actually my story and that I do not have the right to do with it what I please. It's beautiful. And I scanned a particular letter, and I will be putting up a link at the somewhere online, either on Twitter or I had originally posted it to Tumblr, but it was a couple of months ago, so I don't like really want to go digging back through my archive of posts. But yeah, it's a thing of beauty, and I'm gonna be reposting it again pretty soon, and it's glorious. I love it. But you can really sort of get the the sort of the flavor of her interactions and the just it's just great, man. It's just great. There any other questions or anything like that? Or I can switch over to doing in character questions if you have any for Sadie yourself. Oh, the roommate's dog is a hound of Tindelos. That would be great. There are plenty of lines and not so many curves in my room. His so my roommate Mitch. I have two roommates. I have Mitch and Harrison. Mitch is the one with the dog, and his dog is the most fluffiest, just gorgeous little puppy in the world. I love him. Oh, I could work back in a Herbert West thing. Because knowing Sadie's luck, that absolutely would happen. Like, she has such bad luck with things like that would so be the case. I don't know. I may have to float the idea past them because I'm not entirely sure how I would even shoot videos without them really knowing because, like, I mean, Sam travels and the rooms are still pretty empty. We just moved in a couple of weeks ago, so there hasn't been a whole lot of time to like accumulate stuff. So I'd show you my room, but it's an absolute mess, and I don't normally live like this. No, sure. I'm gonna show it to you when it's better. Or actually, I shot a video when I was still partly moving in of Sadie giving a room tour, essentially, which I will be editing and putting up pretty quickly here because I want to start season 2 pretty soon, within the week. But yeah, I'm just excited, y'all. My family are trying to contact me again. Hang on, give me a sec here. Okay. All right. And another little bit to plug the stream again, because why not? Okay. Blammo. Woo. Yep. So a good portion of the things that Sadie does, honestly, are like completely unintentionally, and that she just kind of stumbles into things, and it really doesn't work out, or it works out surprisingly well. Like my whole when I first came up with the idea for Sadie, it was because I had seen a post online about um, uh, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of uh, a Lovecraftian story, but the protagonist is such a nerd that the monster, like they're running away from the monster and their glasses get knocked off, and because they have such bad eyesight, they survive the sanity blastingness of the monster because they can't actually see it. And I just thought that they found me, folks. The jig's up. Huh. But anyway, I just really like the idea of there being a protagonist of a Lovecraftian type story who just has no idea what they're getting into. Because a good portion, if not all, of the Lovecraftian protagonists are they're they get like they not that they know what they're getting into necessarily, but they know off the bat that this is forbidden knowledge. And Sadie doesn't even know that you shouldn't know it. She's just like, she just stumbles on these things and it happens. And she's like, she's only learning after the fact, like, oh, that, that's bad. Probably shouldn't have done that. Like, oh, that good stuff. Any other questions, comments, things like that? If there isn't a whole lot, I may, it's been a little over an hour, so I may shut things down. Yep. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Well, this has been absolutely fun, and I'm gonna do other streams. I know I definitely am gonna do other streams. But I am going to be I'm gonna try to coordinate things a little better. See if we can't get more people in, and all that stuff. So it's been fun, guys. Bye.